Hey guys, this is Ian with Team Legit, and today we're going to do a product demo of RunCam's latest night camera, the Night Eagle 3. This is RunCam's third and a half night-specific camera, and the big changes they've added are that the camera is now color at night, and it's also physically smaller than the older cameras to keep up with the more common camera sizes nowadays. We love night flying, and particularly night FPV at Team Legit, so we're really excited to check out this camera. Let's take a look. The Night Eagle 3, much smaller than the cameras it replaces. So I happen to have here an original Night Eagle and then a Night Eagle 2 Pro as well. These older cameras are going to be 26 millimeters squared. The Night Eagle 3 is 19 millimeters squared. So that's a 19 millimeter side-to-side offset for your mounting holes, as well as happens to be 19 millimeters tall. The RunCam does include in the box a bracket if you want to size this guy similar to the older ones, and they also give you a OSD manipulation tool. Now this is what you're going to use to change all the settings in the camera if you're so inclined. There is a lot of customization optional with this camera, so it's cool that they include that. The other change is that the Night Eagle 3 is color. The prior cameras were always black and white only, day or night. The new camera, you can set it to be, of course, black and white or color, or have it be an automatic switch between day and night, black and white and color. I recommend leaving it just in color all the time. It is really cool to be able to see the world in color at night if you're particularly used to the older cameras, which were black and white only. This footage is from a park in Los Angeles at 9 or 10 o'clock at night. So this is not sunset, this is not twilight, this is night. Now there is a full moon out, which would be common environment for us to be flying night FPV in, because all night cameras, they do need some light. There's no magic bullet that'll make an image out of nothing. You do have to have some light to work in, and a moonlight is very good for that. Now you can see this camera is sensitive enough that with nothing other than the moonlight, you can see my shadow on the ground, and that is a shadow cast by myself against the moonlight. This camera can output an image that is either 4:3 aspect ratio square or widescreen 16:9. The sensor is native 16:9, so you'll get the widest image with 16:9. The image will be cropped in a bit if you go 4:3. Now you don't really lose any resolution because the sensor is much higher resolution than what standard analog video is going to get you anyway. So the image is plenty crisp, but it is zoomed in a little bit on 4:3 compared to 16:9. Whether or not that's a problem for you or a benefit for you depends entirely on what kind of image you like. The camera is perfectly happy to operate in black and white mode if that is what you would prefer. You might say you get a cleaner image in black and white, but the additional reference and kind of depth and utility that color gives the image, especially when you're using it to fly with, I think is a huge improvement. And I say that as a big fan of the original black and white cameras. Now for comparison, this is a Night Eagle 2 Pro. You'll notice it is a wider image. They did have wider lenses back then relative to the sensors they were using. This is the same environment as the prior footage, exact same time of day, exact same lighting conditions. And then this footage with no OSD is the original RunCam Night Eagle. So just for kicks, on screen now is footage from the Foxier Falcor camera and the RunCam Phoenix camera. Again, this is all the same shooting environment, same lighting conditions, and it just illustrates the benefit you get from using a dedicated night camera for low light operations. These cameras are both putting out images, but I wouldn't want to trust an aircraft to either of them. I wouldn't consider these flyable feeds for nighttime. One interesting feature of the Night Eagle 3 is that when in black and white mode, you can choose whether you want the signal itself to be luma only, or if you want a chroma channel in the signal of what the camera is putting out. And what that allows you to do is that the picture you're looking at is black and white, but if you have a color OSD, it will allow the color of that OSD to come through. Anyone who used the older black and white cameras with a flight controller like the Vector that had beautiful color graphics, you'll notice when the camera was black and white, the vector OSD was always black and white as well, and that was because there's no chroma channel for it to encode into that OSD. So with the Night Eagle 3, you can choose to enable that. Now the downside is that you do get some color noise in the signal when you add the chroma channel to the feed. Now this all being said, I assume most people are going to run this camera in color mode as opposed to either of the two black and white modes, but it's cool that the camera includes that. Another interesting feature of this camera is that you can change the shutter mode from auto to what's called flicker. And what that'll do is it'll match the shutter speed to minimize any flicker in the image caused by lighting sources. So because the Night Eagle 3 is color, it's also going to be great in the daytime, right? Well, yes and no. You can absolutely use this camera in daylight, and it does produce a color picture under those circumstances. The lens that the camera uses is a very special lens, but it's IR sensitive. It's not IR cut or blocked. So what you end up with is you get a lot of infrared light affecting the pickup of the image sensor, and it puts a pinkish hue over pretty much everything. So although you don't see this so much at night, in the daylight, any hot light source is gonna flood the image. So unfortunately in sunlight, the image can be quite pink. This is that same park location, and this is broad daylight in Southern California. This is about the worst condition the camera is ever going to see as far as infrared light goes in daylight. At dusk or dawn, later in the afternoon, the effect is diminished, but it's certainly not removed. Now that being said, if you swap an IR blocked lens onto the Night Eagle 3, it puts out very natural colors, as seen here. However, you lose that near IR sensitivity, which is part of what makes the camera so sensitive at nighttime. You also wouldn't get the other benefit of the Night Eagle 3's stock lens, which is an extremely wide aperture. So I said the Night Eagle 3's lens is special, and that's because it's an f/1. Not 1.4, not 2.0, not 1.8, it's an f/1 lens, which lets in a tremendous amount of light. This lens is a big reason why the camera is so sensitive at nighttime. So here's some actual flight footage of the camera. You'll notice that my aircraft is not well tuned and not outputting a clean signal. But in general, guys, this camera, it left us really impressed. I'm really looking forward to continuing to use this in our various night ops. And if you really want to use one camera for both night and day, you might experiment by adding an IR filter to this camera to improve its daylight performance at what should be a marginal hit to its night performance. There's also a wealth of color customizations that the camera offers, and it comes at a slightly lower cost than the old cameras to boot. So guys, that's the Night Eagle 3. This is the best night or low light camera that I've personally used, and that goes for analog or digital. We do have them for sale up on our website right now, teamlegit.com. There's a direct link to that in the description of this video. And I've also posted my recommended settings for the camera. So it's pretty good out of the box, but there are a couple tweaks that I think improve the performance of the camera in low light. And I've listed those settings in the description of this video as well. Thanks for watching. Now, for those of you interested in the production of this video, my test rig for these cameras was actually a set of DJI goggles. The analog DVR built into the DJI goggles is the highest quality analog DVR that I've come across yet. By plugging the cameras directly into these goggles, we're able to get the raw image signal out from the camera without any interference or static that would normally come with an analog transmission system. The feeds in this video are going to be the best quality images that these cameras can produce, and the rest is going to be up to your setup. Now, all the cameras in this video are outputting a PAL signal, so that's going to be slightly higher resolution to show off what the cameras can do the best, but at a slightly reduced frame rate of 50. This video is being mastered at a 60 frames per second. If you'd prefer frame rate over resolution in your own flights, all of these cameras can be run in NTSC format instead, and most of them come as NTSC as default.